Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. And by popular demand, here it is. Ow! The SZELL box is back. The George SZELL box is back. Yay, yay, yay. For how long, I have no idea. What it costs, I have no idea. Where you'll get it, I have no idea. But it's back, which means that we can now go through it. Now, some of you have said, well, what's the point? It's all terrific. Well, you know what? It isn't terrific. It isn't all terrific. There are, his hits and misses, many more hits than misses. We know that. But, it still could benefit, where there's duplication of repertoire, from the presence of a keen critical ear. But in lieu of that, you've got me. And I hope that it isn't too much of a poor substitute. This is such a great set. We all know it. We've all wanted it. So let's talk about it. Besides, what self-respected multi-thousand video YouTube person could talk about classical music and not do the SZELL box? You have to do the SZELL box. And those of you who signed up for Classics Today Insider, there is an insider review there of the SZELL box with sound samples. So I urge you to go take a look at that too, because that's what you paid for. And those of you who have not paid for it, consider paying for it. But anyway, let's just go. This is, oh my goodness. Oh wow, this was so wonderful. Hard as it may seem, be to believe, it may seem to us today. Let's put it that way. SZELL was the third and least marketed of the big Sony artists. SZELL in Cleveland were not their top spot. Top spot went to Ormandy in Philly, and then you had Bernstein in New York, and then somewhere in budget land was SZELL in Cleveland. Stunning, isn't it? You can hardly believe that would be the case. Thank God they let him do as much as he did. Where would we be if they hadn't? But, someone knew what was going on, and they did. And, how many CDs are in here? Because we have to go through them all one at a time. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here it is in the back. Right in the back. So you've got the track listing. There it is. Track listing. There's 106 CDs. Oh, my goodness. I didn't realize it was that many. Oh, well, now we're in for it, but we're going through it. Now, we're going to go through it, and we're going to go through it quickly. I promise it's not going to be too dire, and hopefully it will be fun. But first, let us talk about what is not in the SZELL box, which really annoyed me. First of all, there was this, the Sibelius 2. This was SZELL's Tokyo concert, his last concert that they recorded anyway, and it had Sibelius 2 and Mozart G minor and the Berlioz Hungarian March from the Damnation of Faust, possibly as an encore. The whole concert was available on Sony. This is from French Sony. It was available from the Cleveland Orchestra, and because Sony had licensed it at one point, it should have been put in the box, but it wasn't, probably because the orchestra owns it. The Cleveland Orchestra still needs to do a top quality, really generous, bountiful, as complete as they can make it, SZELL box. They've got the material. It was all radio tapes. They've got it all, and they can do it. And they should do it. They should do it in conjunction, that's the word, with a major label. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? It really would. But who knows? Who knows? All I can say is this isn't there, and it should have been. So that annoyed me. Now, a lot of the mono stuff that is in here, some of it was released earlier. Here's like an example. This was on whatever this wacky label is. United Archives had some of the mono SZELL stuff. They did a multi-volume unreleased SZELL edition. I love it when they call it like unreleased or first release on CD. That it is. Yes, that it definitely was. So that's okay, because then, of course, they release it. So anyway, there were other things, but now it is all fabulously remastered, beautifully packaged in this unbelievably fantastic box. And now we are going to go through it. We're going through it all. And all right, we take the top off. Well, you have this, I mean, it's beautifully done. You have this little ribbony thing, and you get this fabulous book, this coffee table book. And this is one of these coffee table things you'll never put on your coffee table. You'll keep it in here. And here we have, oh wow, yeah. This has got all the complete track listing, nicely done it with an index in the back. I mean, they do these things right, with covers and original jackets and photographs. And so I don't have to take every single thing out here, even though these are, as you can see, they are original jackets. And, it's quite the deal. And we could talk about SZELL's strengths and weaknesses. Well, maybe he had no weaknesses. Maybe they're just his strengths and his less strengths. So we're going to find the beginning of this. What did I just do? I just knocked that. There's too much stuff here. It's cluttered, when you have these large boxes. First you have the essay. And here we go. Here is the original CD1. You get a few Slavonic dances, and we don't know, doesn't matter which ones, and SZELL's arrangement of the Smetana String Quartet No. 1 from my life, which is marvelous, absolutely marvelous. And by the way, all of these things, they start in 1947 is where this starts, and they all really sound pretty good. I mean, they've been very, very carefully restored, and they're great. But, the arrangement that SZELL made of the Smetana Quartet is just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And, one of the interesting things about SZELL is that although he was Hungarian, he really preferred Czech music. He really identified with the Czech universe more than the Hungarian, although he did some of that stuff too, as you know. So there was that one. And then we have CD2, Beethoven 4, and Schumann 4. What's not to love? This is classic SZELL material, and it's excellently done. That's also with Cleveland, because some of this stuff is from New York, by the way, and some other places too. And then we have Mozart 39 and Haydn 92 with the Cleveland Orchestra. This is all still the mono stuff. And then we have Mendelssohn Italian Symphony, which SZELL always did really well, and the Hindemith Symphonic Metamorphosis of Themes by Weber, and Till Eulenspiegel. Ooh, baby. And he does an unbelievable Till Eulenspiegel. I mean, the playing is so transparent and absolutely brilliant. And he would remake all of this stuff in stereo. And sometimes it sounded better, and sometimes, believe it or not, it didn't quite. I'll give you an example in a moment. Then we've got Dvorak New World Symphony on CD5, CD6, only 100 more to go. The Liszt Piano Concerto No. 2, and the Weber Concertstück with Robert Casadei. One of the wonderful things about these mono recordings, of course, is that they feature some work with soloists and concerti that he didn't remake. So they're important to have. Then we've got the Schumann Second Symphony, and we have the Brahms Piano Concerto No. 1 with Rudolf Serkin. Yay, yay, yay. And that's been, of course, that's in the Serkin box. Some of the soloist stuff, if there are boxes devoted to those soloists, they're in there too. But it's really nice to have it all together with SZELL. Then we have Bach, Violin Concerto, and Handel's Sonata for Violin and Basso, and some Tartini. And we have Bach Violin Concerto No. 2, and with Joseph Szigeti and Zeno Francescatti and Carlo Bussetti. Oh my goodness, all these people. Wowie, wow, wow, wow. Mozart, Piano Concerto No. 24 and 26 with Robert Casadei, which of course is in the Casadei box. And Dvorak, the Piano Concerto. This is SZELL's only recording of that with Rudolf Firkushny. It's the revised edition, but who cares? It's wonderful. And the Tchaikovsky Rococo Variations with Leonard Rose. Now, the Dvorak is in Cleveland, and the Tchaikovsky is with the New York Philharmonic, which was then called the Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra of New York. And then we've got Beethoven's Fifth, Schubert's Eighth in Cleveland, and Haydn 88, and 104. The London Symphony, I think that's SZELL's only number 88, and 104 too, for that matter, because he only remade in stereo the early London symphonies, but one of them he did twice. So, like 97 or something. Here we go. the Slavonic dances, the first complete Slavonic dances in mono. And I happen to believe that these mono ones are better than the stereo remakes, and I think they sound better too. They're lighter, more aerated, more transparent, and the performances are just wonderful. I mean, the later ones are really great too. They have wonderful, wonderful moments in both cases, but I prefer the monos. And then we've got Mozart 40 and 41, which are just astounding. This was released in October 1956, so the stereo era is upon us. I think these are these the stereo. This was epic. Originally we contained bloobity. Yeah, well, okay, fine. And this one is matrix number. Yes, it has a matrix number. Do we care? No. All right, Mozart concerto for two pianos. And let's see, and the piano concerto number 12 with more Casa de Sue people. And then we have orchestral music from The Ring. Oh, this is just one of the all-time great Wagner records ever in the history of the universe. It's phenomenal. You get The Ride of the Valkyries, Wotan's Farewell, and Magic Fire music, the Waldweben, the Forest Murmurs, which is just the stupidest orchestral excerpt ever conceived. And then the Siegfried's Rhine journey and Siegfried's Death Funeral March and the Immolation thing. And it's just hot beyond belief. Rachmaninoff, Paganini Rhapsody, Franck Symphonic Variations with Leon Fleischer. Remember when everyone did the Franck Symphonic Variations? Not anymore. It's such a great piece. Silly not to do it. And let's see. Okay, yes. And then we've got, Mozart, Concerto number 17 and 25 with Rudolf Serkin. That's a classic, a serious classic. And SZELL was a real promoter of Mozart's Concerto number 25 in C major, which is one of the real stepchildren of the late piano concerti. It's an incredible masterpiece. And Donald Francis Tovey wrote a fabulous extended essay about it. If you have essays in musical analysis or access to it, you should read that essay and then listen to the concerto. It will change your world, believe me. Brahms first. Okay, now we get to be a little critical. SZELL as a Brahms conductor, I think, is just a little bit stiff, a little bit rigid. The playing is always exquisite. He didn't blow the third like so many other people did. I mean, he just nailed them all. The consistency is amazing. And the chamber music-like transparency of texture and the solo desk work is all first rate. But I find SZELL to be just a little bit tight-lipped and grim in Brahms. I really do. And that's me. Some people have told me, when we originally talked about Brahms symphony cycles, that they adore the SZELL Brahms cycles. I do not. I do not think he did his best work in those Brahms symphonies. Then we've got the Eroica, the greatest Eroica ever, period! Exclamation point. Schubert Ninth, the greatest Schubert Ninth ever! Yes, sir, one of them, for damn sure. And then we've got Till Dawn Death by Strauss, and in stereo, and they are totally marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. This is from 58, 59. And then the Haydn Early London Symphonies, first 97 and 99, which are just glorious. These Haydn Symphony recordings are as fine as any that have ever existed. And for those of you who are like period instrument people and you get that jaw nonsense about how, modern orchestras sound too thick and they're too heavy and it's just bullshit. And listen to SZELL. I mean, there is no period instrument group in the world that has more transparency of texture and less heaviness than SZELL doing Haydn. Then we've got Mozart, Concerto 20 and 18 with Robert Casadei-Sue. And Tchaikovsky, the Capriccio Italien, the Borodin Polovtsian dances, the Rimsky Capriccio Espagnol, and Mussorgsky's Dawn on the Moskva River. Every so often, SZELL would let his hair down. And I mean hair in the singular. He only had one. And he let it down when he did some of these pieces. It was nice of him. Brahms 1, Piano Concerto with Fleischer. Now there's a work. It wasn't a symphony. And SZELL owned the Brahms first piano concerto. He just did. He recorded it with, as you saw, Serkin. And I think Serkin twice, actually, and Fleischer. And they're just phenomenal. No, Serkin did it in stereo with Ormandy. But he also did it with Curzon for Decca. I mean, he just nailed the first piano concerto. And then we have Merry Overtures. Fledermaus, Fra Diavolo, Marriage of Figaro, Bartered Bride, La Cazzo Ladra, The Roman Carnival, and Der Schauspiel director. The hair comes down again. and it is amazing when it does. That was one hell of a hair that he let down. Dvorak, number 8. Now, I think, again, he remade number 8. He remade number 8 for Warner at the very end of his life, his last recording sessions, and I think the remake is better than this one. Sonically, for sure it is. Absolutely. But I just think the orchestra sounds just that much more together and tightly rhythmic and springy in a good sense, not in a rigid sense. It's just better the second time around. Then, oh my God, Walton's Partita, which was, it's still the version of the Partita, and the Mahler 10, Adagio and Purgatorio, which is here marked Andante and Purgatorio, because the actual opening tempo is an Andante for that solo viola line, and it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. We're already up at CD 31, so we're a third done. Then we've got Beethoven Concerto 4, Mozart 25, again with Leon Fleischer. Listen, we don't have to spend time on the SZELL Fleischer stuff because it's all classic. And the Beethoven Concerti are, one of the reference editions of the Beethoven Concerti. So that's that. Dvorak New World Symphony, one of the great ones, the stereo one. Tchaikovsky 5. No one pays attention to this. This is absolutely amazing. It's a dazzling Tchaikovsky 5. Go listen to it. Then Beethoven 7, unbelievable. Another, SZELL's Beethoven, of course, is Legion. It really is. But the 7th was one of the very best ones. It's as great as the Eroica, and it has the most perfectly paced allegretto, the second movement that you will ever hear in your life. It's just incredible. Prokofiev 5. I don't think this is a good Prokofiev 5 at all. I think it's hasty. It's too fast. There's no tam-tam at the climaxes. It's not all that well recorded. It's a miss. And SZELL played the Prokofiev 5 all the time, and there are other recordings of it. There's a live one from Salzburg that was on Orfeo, and they're all the same. They're just glib. I don't really think he had a feeling for that music at all. So there you go. You see, it's not all fabulous. And then we've got, the Grieg and Schumann Piano Concerti with Fleischer, which are fantastic. And the Dvorak 7, which is, oh, wow, is that fantastic. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And Mozart 35, 39, and 40 in stereo. And they are glorious. Some of the greatest Mozart playing you ever heard in your life. And Mozart Piano Concerto 22 and 23 with Casadesus. We all know him. And Schumann Symphonies. Schumann 1, 2, 3, 4, and the Manfred Overture. Okay, here's another controversial case. SZELL Schumann, I think, is superb. I really do. But it's not my favorite Schumann because, again, it's a little bit, to me, not unbuttoned enough. It needs to have fewer buttons. It needs to pop out of a button now and then. SZELL was a very dedicated Schumann conductor, though. He lavished incredible care over these symphonies and over balances and making the orchestration sound lovely. And he did it, frankly, by changing the orchestration. Those who think SZELL was a literalist really should hear his Schumann because it's some of the most interventionist Schumann you've ever heard in terms of completely recasting and rewriting some of the orchestral parts in order to bring out the inner voices or even the melody in some cases where Schumann wasn't too good at figuring out how that should go. So I find them I have enormous admiration for the skill and attention that SZELL lavished on them, but they don't move me the way other Schumann cycles do, and maybe you will feel otherwise. Strauss, Don Quixote, this is great with Pierre Fournier. Wow, yeah. Beethoven, more piano concerti with Fleischer that are all here. Yes, here's the rest of them, and we don't need to talk about them anymore. And then we've got more Beethoven symphonies. Look, we can get through this very quickly, too. SZELL's Beethoven cycle is one of the top, 4 or 5, handful of Beethoven cycles that have ever been recorded. And what fascinates me about it is that although early SZELL, there are some mono Beethoven ones, once he got them down in stereo, he stopped. He didn't make 400 Beethoven cycles. He wasn't like Karajan, who did the Beethoven cycle of the week. 4, 5, 6 of them. Why not? If it's Tuesday, it's time for another Beethoven cycle. No, SZELL got it right. And when he did it in stereo, he got it the way he wanted it to be. And that was the end. Maybe if he'd lived longer, he'd have done it again. Who knows? But, oh, what a glorious Beethoven cycle it is. Stravinsky, the Firebird Suite, and Walton's Second Symphony, both absolutely referenced recordings. Firebird Suite's amazing. SZELL did very little Stravinsky. He didn't really care about Stravinsky. I wish he cared more because, boy, is that sensational playing and exciting too. And the Walton is just great. Walton wanted SZELL to do everything. Walton's opinion was, please, please, George, do play my new work. He just wanted SZELL to do it because he knew that it would be the best. Walton was aghast with admiration for SZELL's performances of his music, and rightly so. Schubert Unfinished, Haydn 92, glorious. Mozart Clarinet Concerto and Horn Concerto with Robert Marcellus Clarinet and Myron Bloom Horn, fabulous. Wagner, more orchestral music, Tristan and Isolde, Meistersinger Preludes, and Tannhäuser, the prelude, and no, it's just the overture. That's all it is the overture. Oh well, I wish he'd done the Venusberg Ballet. That would have been great, wouldn't it? But fortunately, Bruno Walter did that. That's in the Bruno Walter box, which we could also talk about. It's still around at some point. Maybe we will. Who knows? Zeno Francescatti with the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto and the Bruch Violin Concerto. Now, SZELL does the Mendelssohn and Thomas Shippers does the Bruch with the New York Philharmonic. And they give you the whole thing, which I think is just a great thing to do, to give you the whole original album. Let's see, some more Beethoven. We're already up to 53 here. We're halfway. Exactly halfway. Brahms Piano Concerto 2 with Fleischer, one of the reference recordings. More Mozart, Piano Concerto 26 and 27 with Casa de Sue. These are with the Columbia Symphony Orchestra, by the way. They weren't all done in Cleveland. Bartók, this was an interesting disc with Rudolf Serkin, Piano Concerto number 1, and the Prokofiev 4th Piano Concerto for the left hand. This is one of those classic Serkin things. The Bartók is with SZELL in Columbia, and the Prokofiev is with Ormandy and Philly. So it's obviously in the Serkin box, and it's one of those really wonderful one-off Serkin recordings. So I'm happy to see it here. Then we get Magic Vienna, Zauber Wien, auf Deutsch. And it's like, the usual junk, and that's fine. It sounds very Viennese. Mendelssohn Italian Symphony, the Hebrides, and the Weber-Oberon Overture. So those are all fantastic. Debussy, La Mer, Ravel, Daphnis, and Chloe Suite number 2, and the Pavane for a Dead Princess. SZELL's La Mer is one of the great ones as well. I mean, the Ravel's terrific too, but that La Mer is amazing. It is one of the most texturally aware and exciting and brilliant performances of La Mer that you will ever hear in your entire life. Go listen to it. I like to play it for friends of mine. In fact, I did. I played it for, my friend Christophe Hughes up in Canada, and I said to him, who do you think did this? And he couldn't figure it out. I said, SZELL in Cleveland. He's like, whoa, wow, baby, because people ignore it because it's not what he was known for. But, the thing about SZELL is that it doesn't matter what he was known for. He did it fabulously anyway, because he was just so rich in basic musical fundamental values. He just did it right the first time. And, that was amazing. And here is a lovely little photo spread of SZELL with other famous people and talking and chatting and hobnobbing. He wasn't much of a hobnobber. There's that wonderful story about when they were in a hotel in Finland and SZELL was, screaming and shrieking at the bellhop or something because they screwed up the reservations. And, and his wife just looked at them and said, "Gemütlich he ain't." It's a great line. Absolutely great line. Okay, some more Beethoven, including the Leonore Overture number 3, which is SZELL's overtures are as good as his symphonies. Then we get Bohemian Carnival. Oh, yeah. The best Moldau ever. Period. Bar none. There it is. Bartered Bride, dances and, cute things. And Dvorak's Carnival Overture and some individual stereo Slavonic dances. Now, SZELL, like I said, was just loved that Czech stuff. And it's totally phenomenally great. Pictures in an Exhibition, another work that SZELL did fantastically well, along with Liadov's The Enchanted Lake. There's a little bonbon that you don't see very often coming from SZELL. Then Mozart, Symphony 33, Divertimento number 2, for 4 horns and other goodies, and Symphony 28. And of course, SZELL's Mozart was as great as his Beethoven. Absolutely, he was one of the all-time great Mozart conductors in the history of the gramophone. And my gosh, it's wonderful to listen to. It's held up so well. It really has. It's amazing. All right, Mozart Violin Concerto with Isaac Stern, with the Columbia Symphony Orchestra in some of them, and members of the Cleveland Orchestra in others. And let's see, more Mozart. This time with Sirkin, Concerti 19 and 20, which is it's a classic set. And lots more Mozart. You get the Sinfonia Concertante for violin and viola with Raphael Druyan and Abraham Skurnik, and Exultate Jubilate with Judith Raskin, which is quite marvelous. And let's see, more Beethoven and Mozart's Jupiter Symphony in stereo this time. And we get the Sinfonia Domestica. Boy, why he did that, God only knows, but no one did it better. He really did. Barber, Piano Concerto, and William Schumann's A Song of Orpheus with Leonard Rose, cello, and John Browning. The Barber is the recording to own. It still has never been equaled. It really has. And even SZELL knew it. SZELL heard it and he went, wow, whoa, we did that? He actually wrote to the producer and said, we just nailed that. That was just great. And it was. It was totally fabulous. Okay, so we get more Brahms with the Haydn variations in the Third Symphony, some more Beethoven, some more Mozart, 21 and 24 Concerti with Casa dei Su, and the stereo Dvorak Slavonic dances, which, as I said, I don't think are quite as fresh and lively as the mono ones. They're still excellent. They really are. They truly are. But I find the recording to be also just a little bit clogged sounding, and it's not the case with the mono one. So I prefer the mono. Bartók, Concerto for Orchestra, Janáček, Sinfonietta. This is one of the SZELL bow wows. Now, the Bartók is really good until the last movement, where SZELL doesn't do any ending that Bartók actually wrote. Because remember, there were two endings, and SZELL had his own ideas about how to end it, and it wasn't a good idea. The Janáček is just too smooth. It's so polished. All of the rough edges are sanded off, and it's metronomic, which Janáček should never be. And oh my goodness, it's a miss. It's just a miss. Sorry, there were some. And let's see, Mahler 4. Now, this is a famous Mahler 4. Some people just adore it with Judith Raskin. I also don't think it's a great Mahler by 4. I mean, the playing is amazing. It's absolutely amazingly well played. But it's to me, also just a little antiseptic and lacking in Gemütlichkeit. Because as Mrs. Zell said, Gemütlich he ain't. And he ain't. He just ain't. And in Mahler's most gemütlich symphony, then we've got Bizet, L'Arlésienne Suite Number 1, Peer Gynt Suite Number 1. What's not to love? Zell said, we have to give him some shit now and again. That was what he said. That was how he felt about that stuff. But he still never let his standard lapse. He was the greatest conductor of shit that you will ever hear. And, that was his thing. Bruckner 3, fantastic Bruckner 3. More Wagner overtures, The Flying Dutchman, Faust Overture, Lohengrin and Rienzi. I mean, you know that they're going to be great. The Prokofiev Third Piano Concerto and First Piano Concerto, not in that order, with Gary Grafman. Fabulous classic performances, along with the Piano Sonata Number 3. And we've got Beethoven, the Beethoven Overture disc, which in this case has Egmont, Coriolan, King Stephen, Leonore Number 2, Leonore Number 1, and Fidelio, because Leonore Number 3 was over there attached to one of the symphonies. So that's out in there. Then we've got the Brahms symphonies, along with the 1 and 2, with the two overtures, and the fourth as well. And you know how I feel about Brahms. We're already at CD 84. You see what progress we're making? Then the Brahms Concerto Number 2 with Sirkin. Yeah, fantastic. Mendelssohn, A Midsummer Night's Dream Music, and Schubert's Rosamund Music, which is just, those are great. Those are just great. Those are amazingly well played and stylish and pointed and all that stuff. Rossini Overtures, phenomenal. You get Il Viaggio a Reims, La Scala di Seta, the Italiana in Algeria, Il Turco in Italia, La Cazza Ladra. Phenomenally wonderful. And then here we go, the Sirkin Brahms again, Piano Concerto Number 1. There we go. I knew it was here somewhere. And then Sirkin did it also with Ormandy. That's what it was. He was running around doing all of them over and over and over. So there's a Sirkin Brahms 1. And then the Haydn early London symphonies, the first set, numbers 93 through 97, which are just unbelievably wonderful. And the Hindemith Symphonic Metamorphosis in stereo, coupled with the Walton Hindemith Variations, which is another one of Zell's great contemporary music performances. Unbelievable. It's never been equaled. It really hasn't. Mozart Concertos 15 and 17 with Robert Casadesus. More Mozart, Eine kleine Nachtmusik and the Posthorn Serenade. This is one of my favorite of all of Zell's Mozart recordings. It's such a great Eine kleine Nachtmusik, and the Posthorn is dazzling. Absolutely dazzling. Then we get great orchestral highlights from The Ring, the stereo one this time, and it's a smoker. It's a remake of the other one that he did before, so most of the same stuff. The entry of the gods into Valhalla, the Ride of the Valkyries, the fire music, the Waldwebens, and, Morgan Thing and Siegfried's Rhine journey, and the Siegfried death and concluding scene. And then we've got the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto with Gary Graffman, which is delightful. And, one of the all-time classic Zell recordings, the Hariano Suite with Lieutenant Kijé, Kodaly and Prokofiev. Absolutely thrilling. Two musical fairy tales or fables or whatever it's called. Two musical fables. That was one of those discs that everybody had to own. I did when it was one of my first classical albums that I bought myself, because you want to get those pieces, and it's such a wonderful coupling and a wonderful way to do it. The playing was unreal. Then we get the Bruckner 8, Zell's Bruckner 8, which is a little funky, I think. Has a lot of interventionism as well, especially in terms of dynamics and things like that. But it's still a very fine Bruckner 8. And then we've got, some more Haydn that we already talked about. And there's more Haydn. Mahler 6th, the live Mahler 6th. Total bore. It's fast, it's light, it's fluffy, it's everything that Mahler 6 should never be. It isn't tragic, it's just not Zell. The recording's lousy, because it's a live recording, and it's just not good. Really not good. Aren't you happy that some of it's not good? Smetana, the Moldau. Oh, this is the one that's the greatest one ever. I don't know. Maybe it's the same one over and over again. I keep getting Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream stuff. Oh, okay, wait a minute. These are the monos. These are monos. These are the old ones with the New York Philharmonic. This is the New York Philharmonic stuff. There we go. Let me not make myself crazy. So his stereo Moldau remake is still the best one. This mono one isn't bad, but the sound is a little cloudy, and it doesn't have quite the obviously the impact and clarity of his later one. But you do get from Bohemia's Woods and Fields, which are here called Fields and Groves, or maybe meadows and other things, and whatever. And then we get a Midsummer Night's Dream Overture, Scherzo, the usual stuff. And this is all with the New York Phil. And then also with the New York Phil, we get overtures to Meistersinger, Rienzi, Tannhäuser, the Flying Dutchman, der Freischütz, and Oberon. And they're putting discs together here, so you get some decent value for some of these. Then we've got Beethoven's Pastoral. And then, this one is hot. We're already at CD 103, folks. 103. We get the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto with Horowitz and Zell and the New York Phil. This is insane. If you have never heard this, remember, in stereo, remember the Argerich Kondrashin one where she goes completely nuts in the cadenza in the last movement and all that, throwing notes, dropping notes all over the place, doesn't make any difference. Well, this is like that. It really is. Zell drives Horowitz so hard, and he is hard-pressed to keep up, and it is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You must hear that performance. It was actually released separately on a label I think called Palexa at one point. It was available separately in some sort of, I don't know how, but it was. And then we got Mozart's piano quartets with Zell and members of the Budapest String Quartet. Zell playing the piano. And we have more Zell playing the piano in Mozart violin sonatas with Raphael Druyan. Zell was a tremendous pianist, by the way. He really was. And then we've got Christmas melodies, Oh Joy. And then we've got, including Joy to the World, Oh Joy. And then a whole pile of Zell interviews, lasting anywhere from 23 minutes to 3 minutes, or 4 minutes and 3 minutes and 18 minutes. And there they are. There they are. The whole pile of interviews. And then the index. And that, my friends, is the Zell box. So, as I hope you can see, I know we've just run through it quickly because this stuff is so well known. That is true. But it's worth knowing what's in the box, what didn't make it into the box, and what Zell's strengths were, and the fact that he wasn't God, I mean, he was sort of close, but he wasn't God. He did have his lapses, and which is good because unless you have lapses, you don't know what greatness is. You got to have something to compare it to, and that's true even of SZELL. I mean, I have to let me end with a little anecdote. Some of you may know in real life I work in real estate. And I have my whole career, in addition to doing this, because that gave me the freedom to do what I want when it comes to doing this, without being, beholden to any political or special interests. So anyway, I was talking to a construction estimator. We were doing a job, and we had hired a very major construction manager who was making a total mess of the whole project, and it was awful. And we had this wonderful independent Scotsman who was running around, supervising the construction manager, telling us what a mess up the whole thing was. And I said to him, isn't it just embarrassing that a company with this reputation, that's this great, could be so bad, can make such a mess of it? And he looked at me and he said, no, it just makes me feel so adequate. I thought that was just marvelous. And that's how I feel about SZELL. The fact that he couldn't do everything perfectly all the time, it means that I still have a purpose in life. And, if anything that could be absolutely perfect, there would be no point in talking about it and no point in listening to anything else. But even with SZELL, even with someone as great as he was, there is always a good reason to keep on listening. So thank you for joining me, friends. I hope you've enjoyed this tour through 106 CDs of George SZELL. Quite an extraordinary legacy, and the truth of the matter is, in terms of overall quality, it's the best box of CDs you can get. There isn't anybody who's better, and that I can say with 100% certainty. Nobody sustains the same level of excellence as SZELL and Cleveland do in this box of CDs. So it is mandatory listening. That's all I have to say. Thank you for joining me. Take care.